well-being, relationships, life. Improve Personal Development Radio.
Hello, my name is Sarah Betton and I run Excel Against the Odds, helping people with chronic illnesses in the workplace. According to Public Health England, 1 in 3 people of working age in the UK have at least one chronic condition. I have several chronic illnesses, but nobody can guess. Somebody the other day asked me why I was working with people with chronic illnesses, a friend of mine, and she had absolutely no idea that I was living with these conditions that affect me quite a lot on a daily basis. So they're often very well hidden. The biggest issue that a lot of my clients deal with is exhaustion. It's extremely tiring if you have any sort of chronic pain or any chronic condition. Dealing with that on a daily basis brings its own level of exhaustion, and it's not exhaustion from not having enough sleep. It's a bone weary, heavy sort of exhaustion. And with that, a lot of time comes brain fog, where you just can't quite think clearly enough. Your brain is working fine, but it just can't quite grasp the ideas that you know are in there. So that can be very frustrating. I think a lot of my clients have chronic pain, joint issues or muscle pain, and things like migraines as well seem to occur quite a lot. I think in general, in the population, I don't think people realise how prevalent it is and how much it can affect people. And with certain conditions such as chronic fatigue syndrome, there is this idea that people just aren't trying hard enough, that they're not pushing themselves. One of my diagnoses was chronic fatigue syndrome, and I had a colleague tell me that I really should just push myself a bit harder and maybe go out for a run or something like that just to clear my mind. And that would actually have a detrimental effect on my health. So it's raising awareness of these chronic illnesses and what steps can help improve it and what steps will actually make it worse. I think it's very important that people do understand that. And that's something that I really want to do, is to go out to organisations and help them to help their employees with chronic illnesses. I think also that people with chronic illnesses often keep it a secret in the workplace because they don't want to look as if they've got any sort of weakness, when in fact, by talking about it, they can have little changes made that can really make a big difference to their working life. Raising awareness of these chronic illnesses has to happen. Employers need to be aware that a reasonably big chunk of their workforce is going to be suffering from at least one condition, and to encourage them to talk about it. I do think that there is this fear that talking about chronic illnesses shows weaknesses, shows that you're not up to the job. Whereas in fact, with the right supports, you can perform just as well as anybody without any condition. So it's really having those conversations, and they don't have to be difficult conversations. It's about asking the questions and listening to the answers, and without any prejudices, and just really trying to work out a solution to help people in the workplace. An example for me is that lighting in an office can trigger migraines for me. So I was very fortunate that a few years ago, I had an employer who ensured that whenever I was in the office, the overhead lights were turned off and that there were desk lights used instead. And just a small little change made the world of difference to me. It meant that I wasn't getting a migraine every time I went into the office, which is life-changing. So it's about having those conversations, trying to really understand what little adjustments can be made from both the employee's point of view and the employer's point of view, and working it out so that the employee can work to the best of their ability. If the employer can make sure that there is a culture of acceptance within an organisation, then that can enable the employee to step forward. I think if there is a culture where that sort of thing is not accepted, then that means the employee won't step forward. So if the organisation can make a stand and say, we support people with chronic illnesses, please feel free to come and talk to us about what changes we can make, then that would make a huge difference. I've created a questionnaire for employers to send out to their members of staff to see whether they have any chronic illnesses. They can fill it out anonymously just to see what sort of issue they might have within their workplace. And then they can then start sorting out solutions for those people. When I talk about chronic illness, I do include mental illness within that, because I think, especially within the workplace, that can be a huge issue. I think you can set a good example by talking about the fact that you have this chronic illness, but also getting that support from other members of your team. I think it's not a bad thing to show that you're struggling in certain areas. So if it is struggling with starting work at 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m, you'd rather start at 10 o'clock, then having that conversation, explaining why you're doing that, can really make a difference and allow other people to then raise their issues as well. There's lots of different ways that people can find improvements within their workplace. And for you to try and find them for yourself can then have an impact on other people doing the same for themselves. I had one client who was sitting at her desk at 9 a.m. every morning, and she just wasn't getting any work done. And we had a chat about it and discovered that she didn't have the energy to work until 11 a.m. But when she sat at her desk at 9 a.m, by 11 a.m, she was just so worn out from sitting at her desk that she just, even at 11 a.m, she couldn't get any work done. And once she stopped doing that and started work at 11 a.m, she suddenly got through her work so much quicker because she wasn't forcing herself to do something that she wasn't able to do. And it's had a huge impact on her business. So it really is important for people to listen to their bodies and see where their energy levels are and then plan accordingly. So, for example, if you have a lot of concentration in the morning, then that's a good time to do all your detailed work or have those very important conversations. Whereas in the afternoon, when you might be feeling more tired, is a good time to do something that's required less concentration, maybe something you have to do like replying to emails or something like that. So it's about understanding those energy levels and working accordingly. So I have a website, which is excelagainsttheodds.co.uk. And there's also a podcast, the Excel Against the Odds podcast. I also have a free Facebook group for business owners with chronic illnesses, which is called Entrepreneurs Against the Odds.
Improve Personal Development Radio.